A boy with big dreams crossed paths with a frustrated millionaire and changed both their lives forever. What began with a flat tire spiraled into an unexpected test of character, setting the stage for a life-changing twist. Stick around for this heartwarming tale of kindness, integrity, and a mysterious black SUV that showed up the very next day. Welcome to our channel, where stories come alive to touch your heart and spark your imagination. Here, we craft tales that inspire kindness, resilience, and hope. If you love heartwarming stories with powerful life lessons, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support fuels our creativity and helps us share even more uplifting tales with the world. Together, let's spread positivity one story at a time. Benson walked briskly along the cracked pavement, his school backpack bouncing lightly against his back. 14-year-old Benson wasn't like most kids his age. Where others saw boredom, he saw opportunities to learn. That's why he spent extra hours in his school's vocational classes, absorbing everything he could about automobiles. His dream: to one day become an automotive engineer and create something the world had never seen. Life at home wasn't easy. His mother, Miss Clara, worked tirelessly as a seamstress to keep a roof over their heads. She always said, "Benson, no matter how tough it gets, remember, kindness is what makes us rich." Her words stayed with him, shaping how he approached the world. As he neared the dusty road leading to his small house, something unusual caught his eye. A sleek black car, its rear slumped awkwardly to one side. A flat tire. Standing beside it was a man, probably in his late 40s, pacing with his phone in hand. He seemed frustrated, occasionally glancing at the tire before muttering under his breath. Benson hesitated for a moment. Most people would walk by, pretend not to notice, but something inside him wouldn't let him. His mom's words echoed in his mind. "Excuse me, sir, do you need help?" Benson called out, walking closer. The man looked up, startled. "Oh, thank God. I've been trying to get roadside assistance, but no one's coming anytime soon. Do you know anything about cars?" Benson smiled. "A little bit. I've been learning in school." He dropped his backpack to the ground and crouched next to the car. The tools were scattered in the trunk, but Benson's eyes lit up when he saw the spare tire. "You've got everything here. I can help." "You? Fix this." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "Trust me," Benson said, rolling up his sleeves. With practiced confidence, he assessed the situation. The jack was in good shape, and the spare tire looked fine. Piece by piece he worked, explaining what he was doing as he went. The man, whose name Benson learned was Mr. Howard, seemed impressed despite himself. "How'd you get so good at this?" Mr. Howard asked, leaning against the car. "I've been learning in school," Benson replied, tightening a bolt. "Automobiles are my passion. One day, I want to be an engineer, maybe even design a car like this one." He smiled sheepishly, realizing he might have been dreaming too big aloud. "Well, you've got the right attitude for it," Mr. Howard said. "But engineering school costs a fortune. How's that going to work?" Benson's smile faltered. "I don't know yet, but I'm not giving up." 10 minutes later, Benson stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "All set," he said, stepping back to admire his work. Mr. Howard stared at him, a strange look on his face. "You're something else, kid," he said, pulling out his wallet. Benson shook his head. "No, sir. I don't need money. I was just glad to help." For a moment, Mr. Howard stood there, watching Benson, as though seeing something deeper. Then he nodded slowly. "Thank you, Benson. I won't forget this." Benson waved as the car disappeared down the road, but something about the way Mr. Howard hesitated before driving off lingered in his mind. It was almost as if the man had been trying to decide something. Little did Benson know, this act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would change his life forever. The gates of the sprawling mansion swung open, revealing a driveway lined with lush trees and manicured lawns. Benson's jaw dropped as the SUV rolled up to a massive house with gleaming windows and towering columns. He'd never seen anything like it in his life. As the car came to a stop, Mr. Howard stepped out of the front door, a warm smile on his face. "Welcome, Benson," he said, extending a hand. Benson hesitated, then shook it firmly. "This place is incredible," he said, his voice filled with awe. Mr. Howard chuckled. "Thank you. But I didn't bring you here just to admire my house. Yesterday, your act of kindness struck a chord with me. I believe in rewarding people with true character. But before I can offer you the opportunity I have in mind, I need to be sure your heart is in the right place." Benson frowned slightly, unsure of what that meant. I think I understand," he said, though uncertainty tugged at his mind. Mr. Howard gestured toward a pair of ornate doors. "Inside this room, you'll face a test. It's nothing dangerous, but it will reveal who you are at your core. Do you accept?" Benson nodded cautiously. "Yes, sir." The doors creaked open, and Benson stepped into a dimly lit room. His eyes widened as he saw glittering gold coins, shiny gadgets, and luxury items piled high on every surface. It was like stepping into a treasure trove. In the corner, however, he noticed something that made his heart ache. A small child, no older than 6, sitting on the floor and sobbing. The child clutched a stuffed animal, looking lost and scared. Benson froze, torn between the dazzling treasures and the crying child. The temptation was real. Those treasures could transform his life and his family's. He could finally ease his mother's burden, maybe even buy her a home. But his mother's words echoed in his mind. "Kindness is what makes us rich." Benson took a deep breath and stepped away from the pile of valuables. He knelt beside the child, his voice soft and soothing. "Hey there, are you okay? Are you lost?" The child nodded, tears streaking their face. "Don't worry. I'll help you find your parent," Benson said with a comforting smile. He even slipped off his old watch, a birthday gift from his mother, and handed it to the child. "Here, hold on to this. It'll make you feel better until we find your mom or dad." The child's sobs quieted, and they hugged the watch tightly. Benson took their hand and began looking around the room, calling out, "Hello? Is anyone here? This kid needs help." Suddenly, the lights flickered on, and a hidden door opened. Mr. Howard walked in, clapping slowly, a proud smile on his face. The child, now all smiles, let go of Benson's hand and ran over to Mr. Howard. "What's going on?" Benson asked, confused. Mr. Howard knelt and hugged the child. "This is my son, Ethan," he said. And this was the test. Benson's eyes widened. "The test." Mr. Howard nodded. "I wanted to see what you would do when faced with temptation. Would you choose material wealth, or would you stay true to your values and help someone in need?" "Benson, you passed with flying colors. Your kindness, even under pressure, proves you're someone worth investing in." Benson stood speechless as Mr. Howard continued. "I grew up poor, just like you. I know what it's like to dream of more, but feel like the odds are stacked against you. That's why I've made it my mission to help people like you. I'm offering you a full scholarship to a top engineering school when you're ready." Tears welled up in Benson's eyes. You'd do that for me." "You've earned it," Mr. Howard said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And I have no doubt you'll do great things." For Benson, this was more than just an opportunity. It was a validation of his values, his dreams, and the lessons his mother had instilled in him. In that moment, he realized kindness wasn't just a choice. It was a path to something greater. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Benson's small bedroom as he stirred awake. The faint sound of murmurs drifted in through the window. Something unusual was happening outside. He rubbed his eyes, pulled on his shirt, and peeked out the window. His heart skipped a beat. A sleek black SUV, its polished surface gleaming in the sunlight, was parked in front of their modest house. It was the kind of car that didn't belong in their part of town. A few neighbors had gathered, whispering and pointing, their curiosity evident. "Benson," Miss Clara's voice called from the kitchen. She sounded nervous. He rushed out of his room, finding his mother standing stiffly by the door, her hand on the handle as though deciding whether to open it. Two sharply dressed men stood outside, their posture firm and authoritative. Miss Clara's brow furrowed. Who are these people, and what do they want? Before Benson could answer, the taller of the two men knocked again, his expression calm but unreadable. With a deep breath, Miss Clara opened the door just wide enough to peer out. "Good morning, ma'am," the man said, his tone professional. "We're here on behalf of Mr. Howard." Miss Clara stiffened. "Mr. Howard? What does he want?" The second man spoke this time, holding out a small sealed envelope. "We've been sent to deliver this message to Benson. Is he home?" Miss Clara's protective instincts kicked in. "What business does Mr. Howard have with my son?" she demanded, her voice firm. Benson stepped forward, his heart pounding. "I'm Benson," he said, his voice steady despite his growing nerves. The taller man handed him the envelope. Benson's hands trembled slightly as he opened it, revealing a single cryptic note written in elegant handwriting. "Come with us. Your kindness deserves a reward." Miss Clara snatched the note from his hand, her eyes narrowing. "What is this? Some kind of scam? My son isn't going anywhere with you." "Ma'am," the man said politely, "Mr. Howard is a man of integrity. Your son's act of kindness yesterday did not go unnoticed. This is an opportunity, not a trick." Benson looked at his mother, his mind racing. Could this really be an extraordinary chance, or was it too good to be true? "No, Benson, I don't like this," Miss Clara said firmly. "We don't know these people." Benson placed a hand on her arm. "Mom, I think Mr. Howard is genuine. Remember how he looked at me yesterday? I want to see what this is about. Please." Miss Clara hesitated, torn between her protective instincts and the trust she had in her son. Finally, she sighed and nodded reluctantly. "Be careful," she said, her voice tinged with worry. Benson stepped outside, the cool morning air brushing his skin as the men opened the SUV's door for him. The interior smelled of leather and polish, a far cry from the old seats of the bus he usually took to school. As the vehicle pulled away, Benson's heart raced. The men remained tight-lipped, answering his questions with vague responses. Outside the tinted windows, the scenery shifted from weathered houses to modern skyscrapers. The SUV turned into a gated estate, its vast grounds stretching farther than Benson's eyes could follow. He couldn't shake the mix of excitement and fear swirling in his chest. What awaited him at the end of this ride? A reward? A trick? Or something he couldn't even begin to imagine? The unknown loomed ahead, and Benson braced himself for whatever was to come. The sleek black SUV rolled back into Benson's neighborhood, its polished exterior gleaming under the midday sun. As the vehicle came to a stop outside the small weathered house, Benson saw his mother standing on the porch, her arms crossed tightly, worry etched into her face. He stepped out of the car, his backpack slung over his shoulder. Miss Clara hurried down the steps, her eyes scanning him as if to make sure he was unarmed. "Benson," she exclaimed, pulling him into a tight hug. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mom," Benson said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Better than fine. You won't believe this." He began to explain everything. The sprawling mansion, Mr. Howard's kindness, and the scholarship to a top engineering school. As he spoke, Miss Clara's eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking as she listened. "A scholarship?" she whispered. "For you?" "Yes, Mom," Benson said, smiling through his own tears. "He said it's because of what I did yesterday. Because I helped him." Miss Clara pulled him close again, her voice choked with emotion. "Oh, Benson, your kindness, it brought this to us. I'm so proud of you." By now, the neighbors had gathered, drawn by the sight of the SUV, and the palpable excitement radiating from the little house. They called out questions, their voices tinged with curiosity and admiration. "What happened, Benson? Is that a car for you? Did you win the lottery?" Benson shook his head and faced them, feeling a mix of humility and pride. "No, I didn't win anything. I just helped someone who needed it, and it turned into something bigger than I could have ever imagined." The crowd murmured in amazement, some clapping, others nodding with approval. Benson's story spread quickly, inspiring whispers of hope and possibility among the neighbors. Later that evening, as the house quieted down, Benson sat with Miss Clara at the kitchen table. The scholarship still felt surreal, like a dream he might wake up from at any moment. "Mom," he said hesitantly, "what if I'm not good enough? What if I can't live up to this?" Miss Clara reached across the table and held his hand. "Benson, you've already proven you're more than good enough. This isn't just about how smart you are. It's about your heart, your determination, and your kindness. That's why Mr. Howard believes in you. And so do I." Her words settled in Benson's chest, filling him with a quiet confidence. In the weeks that followed, inspired by Mr. Howard's generosity, Benson began a small project in the neighborhood. Using what he'd learned in vocational classes, he started teaching younger kids how to work on bicycles, fix small appliances, and solve everyday problems. "Dream big," he told them during one session, his voice filled with passion. "You don't need much to start. You just need to believe in yourself and help others when you can." True to his word, Mr. Howard became more than a benefactor. He visited Benson regularly, offering guidance, sharing stories of his own struggles, and encouraging Benson to think about the future. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Benson stood on his porch, staring out at the streets of his neighborhood. The place that once felt like a cage now felt like a launching pad. He clenched his fists, his heart brimming with determination. One day, he would repay this kindness, not just to Mr. Howard, but to everyone who believed in him. He would create opportunities for others, just as this one had been created for him. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Benson whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning." Thank you for joining us on this inspiring journey today. If this story moved you, don't leave without subscribing and letting us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your engagement keeps us motivated to share more stories that bring warmth and joy to your screen. Remember, every click and comment helps our channel grow and makes our storytelling dreams possible. See you in the next heartwarming tale.